muna godiya don kai da na kai da ake yi
This project was conceived about 3 years ago, and it ought to have been completed, but owing to the challenges of COVID-19 and the all of society approach to national security. A terrorism center of excellence, second to none in sub-Saharan Africa. Whatever, like the NSA will say, doesn't kill you, should make you stronger. So our counterterrorism challenges in Nigeria, the knowledge gained
center. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this beautiful edifice you're seeing today is one of the numerous legacy projects of Mr. President, and it is the first of its kind in Africa. I think Mr. President deserves a resounding round of applause for that.
National Counterterrorism Center was unveiled on 21st of March in the year 2023.
During operations like sailing to rescue people and so on. But this one, you can see a helpless lady being lifted by your soldiers, your special forces. I got a friend of mine.
That's another historic picture there.
Oh yeah.
So Mr. President, we're going with the lift while the rest of the crowd is going hotel halls and public halls. And the danger of it is that the vulnerability of sensitive
maritime picture, detecting and analyzing illegal actions, alerting your person to lives. This routine event is reported by the AIS automatic
security of the various VIPs that will be coming from foreign lands. So with this conference center, both this one and the one at the new live feeds from the maritime domain and the land domain operations. So the maritime domain operation is actually the Falcon Eye project, which is 24 hours.
Our troops that are on ground. We have 60.
Of March this year by me. Thank you.
Yes, sir. That's the movie. Sorry. Now, under the SGF's office, we have the Special Services Office that is attached to the NSA's office, always documenting everything we do, the daily affairs of our work. So just to what? Yes, sir. The Nigerian Navy and the Falcon Eye.
Doyen of Diplomatic Community, Vice Doyen, United Nations Representative of Mr. Schumann, Matthias Schumani, UN Resident message, which has very well delivered. Let's hear it. Yes, we all know the film and the stuff of Abuja Stone. Of staff to the President, Professor partners of the national and temporal. It is such abuse. The security threats have necessitated our facilities follow up with vigor on extreme needs to include architect and professional careers brought to bear in this newly constructed office. The man whose passion for nation and national security.
Secretary to the Government of Honorable Minister, Federal Capital, past and present, of the Defense Staff, Service Chief, forgotten anyone, Your Excellencies and organizations. A very unique to be here today for the commissioning of the new office of the National Security Advisor and the National Counter-Terrorism Office by His Excellency the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari. So, let me commence by stating that the Office of the National Security Advisor was created by Decree number 19 of 1986 and validated by the 1999 Constitution as the National Security Agencies Act. It also established the Department of State Services, the National Intelligence Agency, and the Defense Intelligence Agency. The Office of the National Security Advisor, through the activities of key interagency intelligence sharing platforms, such as the Intelligence Community Committee, the Joint Intelligence Board, the General Security Appraisal Committee, and the Cybercrime Advisory Council, assesses the security concerns of our country and appropriately advises the President on all matters bordering on national security. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the dynamic nature of the global and domestic security environment has necessitated the modification and expansion of some of the earlier functions of the Office of the National Security Advisor. Now, some of these expansions include the establishment of the National Counter-Terrorism Center, which also has a new office that was just commissioned by His Excellency the President. One of the key reasons for the establishment of the new center is the series of amendments incorporated in the Terrorism Prevention Act in the year 2011, 2013, and 2022, which broadened the counterterrorism responsibilities of the Office of the National Security Advisor. Furthermore, the creation of the National Center for the Control of Small Arms and Light Weapons, which will soon be moving to its permanent location, as well as the proposed National Cybersecurity Coordination Center, are other major areas of expansion. In addition, there were some key departments that were hitherto not co-located within the premises of the former Office of the National Security Advisor that are now in the new office, thereby enhancing administrative control. Now, generally speaking, it is these aforementioned developments that have generated the need for larger facilities to centrally house all key departments in order to optimally discharge the functions of the Office of the National Security Advisor. Notably, a key outfit that will be housed in this main office complex is the upgraded Intelligence Fusion Center, which is designed to produce threat assessments and estimates over a broad range of regional, global security issues. It is a key platform for enhancing interagency processes due to the broad representation of security agencies as well as relevant ministries, departments, and agencies of government. Similarly, the new Office of the National Counterterrorism Center is designed to accommodate the additional workforce and improved technological capabilities of the center, particularly the Explosives Devices Analysis Office, increasing activities of the Countering Violent Extremism Department and the Joint Terrorism Analysis Branch, JTAB. Now, the products from the JTAB are usually integrated with the Intelligence Fusion Center and used to support intelligence assessments and estimates of the entire intelligence community, which I coordinate. On a final note, I wish to state that the conceptualization, design, and development of the new offices of the National Security Advisor and the National Counterterrorism Center were based on Mr. President's vision of ensuring a robust national security enterprise for our country. Let me therefore seize this opportunity to thank everyone who has contributed to these two projects, particularly Messrs. Julius Berger Construction Company and DBLO Construction Company, who showed sustained commitment, especially during the movement restrictions occasioned by the COVID-19 lockdowns and later delays in shipment of construction materials induced by the effects of the Russia-Ukraine war. I would also like to thank my longtime friend and art consultant, Mr. Ben Ibebe, whose works abound the entire premises of the new National Counterterrorism Center and the Office of the National Security Advisor. I equally would like to convey our profound gratitude to members of the National Assembly, past and present, as well as the House of Representatives members who are here. Specifically, I would like to mention distinguished Senator Mohammed Shaba Lafiaji, immediate past chairman, Senate Committee on National Security and Intelligence, as well as the Right Honorable Amin Hussaini Jaji, immediate past chairman, House of Representatives Committee on National Security and Intelligence, for their unflinching support and encouragement throughout the period. And I'd like to mention, Mr. President, that these two gentlemen displayed remarkable personal traits, attributes that are very, very rare in today's world. Prior to meeting them, consulting with them, and getting their support, I was in a very, very desperate situation, not knowing what to do until I was advised to meet them. I can liken my situation to the frustrations that were experienced by the late American President Lyndon Baines Johnson when he was so frustrated during the Vietnam War, and he said something like, "I feel like a hitchhiker caught in a Texas storm. I can't run, I can't hide, and I can't make it stop." That was how I felt before I met these two gentlemen. And Mr. President, I believe the two of them share your DNA. I would also in terms of integrity, personal character, uprightness, steadfast resoluteness. Now, Mr. President, another person I would like to also extend our sincere gratitude to is the Honorable Ahmed Munir, Member, House of Representatives, who had worked tirelessly, whose personal efforts resulted in persuading the governor of Kaduna State to give the Office of the National Security Advisor's Counterterrorism Center 30,000 hectares of land for our kinetic efforts. This is unprecedented. So I would like to thank Honorable Ahmed Munir. I would also like to thank the Honorable Muhammad Musa Bello, Honorable Minister, Federal Capital Territory, who intervened when a parcel of land belonging to the Office of the National Security Advisor was encroached upon by some undesirable elements, but he was able to revoke that parcel of land, part of which the National Counterterrorism Center sits on. Therefore, I'd want to thank him, Babangida Mieti. Now, most importantly, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all the directors and staff of the Office of the National Security Advisor. They have in various capacities exhibited painstaking commitment and enduring supervision to ensure the completion of these two projects that were just commissioned by Mr. President. Ultimately, finally, it is my great pleasure to thank you, Mr. President, our Commander-in-Chief, for the enormous support and confidence you have reposed in me to fulfill these projects as part of the numerous legacies of your administration. I am indeed extremely humbled. Sir, you have done what I believe may not have been achieved in our past experience. You've opened a floodgate and you've raised the stakes. Lastly, I want to thank each and every one of you that has honored our invitation to come for this most important occasion. I thank you very, very much. May the Almighty God bless and secure the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
And friends, allow me to stand on existing protocol. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the United Nations family, it is my honor to provide a few remarks of goodwill at today's ceremony commissioning the newly built Office of the National Security Advisor and National Counterterrorism Center. I bring good wishes from the Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator, Mr. Matthias Schmelle, who is currently traveling in the south of the country. He asked me to present the following remarks to you. First, allow me to thank His Excellency, President Buhari, and his government for championing the National Counterterrorism Center. This is no doubt part of your legacy and will enable Nigeria to continue to address domestic and regional security challenges. The United Nations has been and continues to be a strong partner and supporter of Nigeria's efforts to address the issues of insecurity and terrorism. Allow me to point to our global United Nations counterterrorism commitments. Since 2001, the Security Council has adopted more than 40 counterterrorism resolutions. As outlined in these resolutions, member states are obliged to implement significant measures at the national level while also enhancing bilateral and multilateral cooperation to counter and eradicate terrorism. As part of a whole-of-government effort, these include criminalizing terrorist acts and prosecuting offenders, countering the financing of terrorism, enhancing border security, countering incitement to terrorism, and addressing the root causes. The visit of the members of the UN Security Council to Nigeria and the passage of Resolution 2349 on the 31st of March 2017 demonstrates the United Nations commitment to supporting Nigeria's counterterrorism efforts. The Security Council resolutions also call for the protection of critical infrastructure, addressing the misuse of the internet, developing counter-narratives and strategic communications, involving the whole of society in efforts to rehabilitate and reintegrate persons, as well as to address conditions that may be conducive to terrorism. The Security Council continues to closely examine the potential risk of interaction between terrorism and human trafficking and other forms of transnational organized crime and the global networks that may enable them. Enduring language in Council resolutions highlights the centrality and primacy of the rule of law and international law, including international human rights standards, international humanitarian law, and international refugee law. It is our hope that the newly commissioned National Counterterrorism Center will effectively contribute to advancing implementation of these various Security Council resolutions and is thus a positive step towards Nigeria fulfilling its obligations under international law. The United Nations Counterterrorism Committee, its Counterterrorism Executive Directorate, the United Nations Office for Counterterrorism, the United Nations Development Program, the International Organization on Migration, and the United Nations Office for Drugs and Crime have and will continue to work closely with the government of Nigeria on its ongoing counterterrorism efforts in various capacities. For example, we look forward to collaborating on the upcoming high-level Abuja Summit on counterterrorism, which the Office of Counterterrorism and the government of Nigeria plan to hold in 2023 to identify concrete priorities and actions for joint efforts to address terrorism in Africa. The United Nations commends the progress made by the Nigerian military to degrade the operational capacity of the Islamic State in West Africa Province and Boko Haram, and to improve intelligence gathering on suspected terrorists. We further commend the development of threat assessments and watch lists by the Office of the National Security Advisor, the active cooperation with Interpol, the establishment of multi-agency screening processes, the trial of multiple terrorist suspects, and the development of federal and state rehabilitation and reintegration programs. Mr. President and distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we all know that it takes kinetic and non-kinetic responses to end terrorism. The fact that almost 80,000 persons have surrendered to authorities in the Northeast since May of 2021 represents a real opportunity to shift the dynamic. Challenges remain in terms of screening and identification of those individuals and ensuring appropriate responses in line with their needs and profiles. Some persons are in no doubt deserving and desperate for humanitarian assistance. And likewise, individuals will need to be held accountable for their crimes, and justice will need to be served. The UN stands willing and ready to support the government of Nigeria on this effort and commends Governor Zulum for developing the Borno model and engaging with the United Nations on this matter so far. The United Nations' new agenda for peace focuses on holistic and comprehensive approaches to building societies in which terror has no home. It is our understanding that the National Counterterrorism Center aligns with this overall peace-building agenda, and that its functionality and success will contribute to further strengthening and supporting the peace architecture in this country. In closing, I note that the adoption of the 2022 Terrorism Prevention and Prohibition Act and the establishment of this National Counterterrorism Center will strengthen the foundation for a coordinated and multi-dimensional response to terrorism. The UN will continue accompanying and supporting your efforts in enabling the success of the National Counterterrorism Center. I congratulate you once more, Mr. President, and thank you.
To the government of the Federation, the Chief of Staff, members of the Federal Executive Council, members of the National Assembly, National Security Advisor, Chief of Defense Staff, Service Chiefs and Inspector General of Police, Heads of Security and Intelligence Services, members of diplomatic corps and international organizations, senior government officials, our royal fathers, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am delighted to be here today to perform this historic commissioning of the new offices of the National Security Advisor and National Counterterrorism Center. These two world-class state-of-the-art facilities will optimize our efforts at addressing the newly evolving security challenges in our environment, especially terrorism and violent extremism. The secure and high-tech nature of these offices are designed to enhance our strategic response to a broad range of current and emerging security concerns. This is because we live in an interconnected world and therefore must be able to face and respond to both domestic and global security challenges. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, you may recall that when this administration assumed office in 2015, the threat of terrorism was one of the major security challenges facing the country. However, I can confidently state here today that we have achieved significant milestones in degrading the major threats and restoring normalcy to most of the hitherto securitized areas in the Northeast. These areas, previously occupied by terrorists, have been freed, and internally displaced persons are voluntarily returning to their homes. This was largely achieved through the valiant efforts of our armed forces and other security agencies in collaboration with our regional and international partners, but above all, the support and cooperation of the Nigerian citizens. Apart from degraded threat of terrorism in the Northeast, the government has also curbed a series of armed banditry and kidnapping cases in the Northwest and North Central zones, which emerged as a result of the scattering of Boko Haram in the Northeast and the implosion of Libya in the Maghreb. In addition, agitators in the Southeast and to a much lesser extent the Southwest, which have been experiencing concerns of separatist tendencies, have been checkmated. Meanwhile, issues of crude oil theft, sea robbery, piracy, and militancy in the South-South are equally being addressed. Most of these threats have transnational linkages, thereby reinforcing the need for regional and international cooperation as critical enablers to enhance our national security. I am also pleased to observe that some key threats within Nigeria's maritime environment, such as piracy, sea robbery, crude oil theft, as well as illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing, have been effectively tackled. This has mainly been facilitated by the Falcon Eye Maritime Domain Awareness Project domiciled with the Nigerian Navy and coordinated by the Office of the National Security Advisor, which I commissioned on the 13th of July 2021. Through the provision of high equality real-time intelligence, the facility has between August 2018 and March 2023 prosecuted over 220 vessels involved in maritime criminality within Nigeria's exclusive economic zone up to the Republic of Togo. In addition, over 87 oil tankers involved in various crude oil and product theft have been arrested. The theft of over 3 million barrels of crude oil was prevented, and 15 million liters of petrol and diesel recovered. Recent commendations from the International Maritime Organization, European Union, and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime to Nigeria on our efforts in reducing maritime criminality in the Gulf of Guinea and successful prosecution of pirates in the region are worth mentioning. Another key area of focus of this administration has been the cyber domain due to the dynamic nature of cyber threats. This is of great concern due to the increasing digitalization of the Nigerian economy. In view of this, the government established the Nigerian Computer Emergency Response Team and revised the National Cyber Security Policy and Strategy in February 2021. The regular briefs of all Cybercrime Advisory Council meetings I receive further highlight the importance of protecting our cyberspace from all forms of intrusion. To further complement these efforts, I will soon be endorsing the presidential order for the designation and protection of critical national information infrastructure. This is bearing in mind that cyberspace creates a nexus for synchronizing efforts of our security and law enforcement agencies towards addressing numerous security challenges. Let me commend some of the key security policy documents either produced or revised by this administration and supervised by the Office of the National Security Advisor. These include the National Counterterrorism Strategy 2016, National Security Strategy 2019, National Cybersecurity Policy and Strategy 2021, and the National Crisis Management Doctrine 2022. In broad terms, these policy documents emphasize a whole of government involving all the ministries, departments, and agencies in combination with a whole of society involving civil society organizations and the citizenry. Thereby, we can achieve a whole of nation and ultimately a whole of region approach involving our continuous neighbors, ECOWAS, and African Union partners in order to address various dimensions of security concerns. This commissioning is coming as we are gradually winding down this administration. It will therefore serve as a major legacy to provide the incoming administration with the state-of-the-art infrastructure to effectively coordinate our national security and counter-terrorism efforts. Most importantly, this will demonstrate our firm commitment to ensure our national security capabilities are kept abreast with the highest global standards. I congratulate the National Security Advisor, Major General Babagana Munguno retired, and his team for this notable achievement. I am confident that the commissioning of the new offices of the National Security Advisor and National Counter-Terrorism Center would in no small measure enhance the desired peaceful and secure environment for our country. I thank you, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Please go outside.